I suppose actually to drop a mini bombshell, I think there is a time when non-black people can say the word nigger.
Nice, okay.
And the one time that they can say it is... What's going on, everybody, and welcome to 30 Years and Running. I'll be your host, Christian, and each week my friends and I will be looking at life seen through the eyes of 30-somethings. Whether it's things like dating, social media or mental health, we'll be looking at the past, present and future of being in your 30s. Is it going to be an anticlimax?
Probably, but we'll see.
No, I've got faith in you. I think it'll be a good one. Anyway, welcome to 30 Years and Running. I am kind of gassed, I'm not going to lie. I got a king back in the building, boy. King Serge. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me again.
No worries. No, thank you for coming out. So the topic for this episode, I guess, for anybody who hadn't seen the previous episode that Serge and I did, go and check that out. Actually, the link will be somewhere up here, basically. Okay. But we did an episode about a year or so ago called All Black Everything, where we looked at different things relating to kind of black culture and black identity. And I suppose one of the talking points towards the end, I don't know if you remember actually, but one of the talking points to the end was on the N-word. So today's topic is a doozy one, people. It is the N-word. So that's what we're going to be covering today.
Nice.
Warts and all. So I think, I just wanted to start right from the top, really.
Yeah.
To give people a sense of, where your head's at with it. But just fundamentally, do you use it at all in your daily life at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amongst friends, yes, absolutely. I find it endearing, right? In the right context, right? So I would I would refer, I would use that affectionately for yourself and other people that I feel affection towards, right? It just kind of tells me, oh, this is how I see that person. They are so close to me that I have no guards around them.
Sure.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? So it's and that's not just because he's black. No, it's you're a certain kind of person that I just roll with, right? So if I was really, really, really close with I don't know, someone that's not black, I might refer to them that way.
You'd use it then?
Right? Yeah, because it's kind of just they get it. That's just how I talk. Do you know what I mean?
It's funny you should say that because... So I've got a friend called Fred, and we've been friends for the longest time. So Fred's half Indian, half white.
Right.
But for all intents and purposes, if you didn't know him, you might think he was mixed race. You might think he's black and white. Yeah. So I always joke with him. I'm always you got the pass, man. And he will never say the words. I know he will never say the words. He knows it's a trick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know what you mean. It's sometimes, and for some people, maybe even myself included as well, the words... Especially when you're talking about the one nigger instead of nigger. Yeah. That word is, like you say, a term of endearment. It's just someone 100%. Who's just your homie or your friend. I don't go around dropping that to Fred or whatever. I only use it with my black or black or mixed race friends. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel because of his experience that he's had. So Fred has been stopped by the police, for example. When Fred kind of goes through the trials. He'll go through the similar trials and tribulations that me and you might go through. So part of me also thinks, and maybe this is me kind of maybe post rationalizing my usage of it, but part of it might be just almost a bit of a state of mind as opposed to your ethnic background and stuff like that, really. So
do you know who uses it as a state of mind?
An experience, sorry.
A good example of someone that uses two things, right? So a good example of someone that uses it as a state of mind or even just as vocabulary is Dave Chappelle. Right? He uses it indiscriminately for anything. Do you know what I mean? Right? To tell a story. Yeah. Right? And I saw this it was yesterday or maybe the other day, and I think it was 50 Cent. It's one of those short clips on YouTube. I wish I could remember exactly what he said, but he used the term nigger in there.
Who, 50 did?
Yeah, 50 did. Yeah. 50 did. And the comment was this is the first time I've heard someone use the term nigger as a comma. Do you know? Right? Do you know what I mean? So I feel that word can be used in so many ways beyond just a derogatory word, etc. It's especially for African Americans, for them it's just everyday use. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Right? It's it's used as a full stop, as a comma. Do you know what I mean?
Niggas just running all through the the grammar and vocabulary of
do you
people.
know what I mean? Right. So I feel like it's I've never understood the. Well, no, I do understand it actually. I was gonna say I never understood the envy of people like wanting to use the word, etc. But I think Black culture, African American culture in particular, is such a popular culture that it's literally defined as the culture.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like the culture, and that's across the board. Now things like British culture, again from the Black side of things, as well as like Afro beats and African culture now. It's all becoming like one big piece of the culture. Do you know what I mean? So, and nigger determines a lot of that.
Yeah, sure. So you're, from your perspective, you're more on you think it's a positive thing that we kind of use it, or is it not as kind of, excuse the pun, but it's maybe not as black and white as that?
I think, however, I can understand, especially again, I keep saying African Americans in particular, but just because it's excessively used over there, it doesn't lessen the sting when it's used over here either. But I think I've always felt like British racism is so covert in its operation, and it's very much over there. So I can understand and I can appreciate for certain generations, just like, no, there's no circumstances when it's okay to use that terminology. And equally, I can understand and I can see the inappropriateness of it. Like, I wouldn't just go around like, yo, you're sup niggas, like to my work colleagues or whatever, right? It's like,
they'd be like, here's your P45 nigga.
Out, you know what I mean?
That's when you get called. So they use
they use the ER version, right? But I do think, I understand that context of for some generations and some people, some intellectuals maybe, there's never any excuse to use it. But I think like anything else of the Black experience, it's powerful that we found use in something that was given to us in with the intention of hurting us. And we turned it into something that is empowering.
And I think just to build on that, like that's what we've done for hundreds of years. Like we took the scraps from the kitchen and we made it into whatever. Really.
Soul food and all this stuff.
So I think from my perspective, I probably sit in a similar space that you do with this, in terms of I see both sides of the argument. I think, and maybe this is because I'm part of the younger generation, I think it can be a positive thing, just because, probably to your point, it's kind of like a reclaiming of a word, probably the worst racial slur out there, one of the most abhorrent words in the English dictionary. It's like we've reclaimed that and tried to use it in a more positive way. Just a bit of a side note on that, like I'm doing a bit of work at the moment with the LGBT community, and this isn't by any means just to be crystal clear, isn't drawing comparisons with it, but I think there are kind of parallels with it. So one of the words that they have kind of taken a similar kind of view on is the word queer. So like queer, so like queer, for example, I remember when I was growing up, like if you called someone queer, that was a pejorative for gay people. Like that was unacceptable. Nowadays, what you're starting to see, and what I was surprised to find out, is like, people from the LGBT community, and also like straight people as well, they say the queer community instead of the LGBT, or it's interchangeable really. But you can kind of use it in the same sense. So like that's an example of how, a word which has historically been used to degrade a community is now been flipped on its head to be a source of power. And I kind of feel like nigger in some senses is kind of following a similar trend to that. I think you can make a smaller argument for something like the word bitch, for example. So you see like people... like, women, and women, we might talk about hip hop especially. Like we might talk about like, I'm a bad bitch or whatever. So like, I think there's similarities there. But anyway...
But on that point, because that's such an interesting point, because I guess because of things like Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, right? It was such a mainstream thing. I think the F word in that community is probably more of a similar comparison. Right? Where I don't think you would ever see a show that's got the F word, whatever.
In saying that though, although, I have heard, I haven't seen or heard it myself personally, but I heard the F word is starting to kind of go down that road as well.
That's so interesting.
So it might be that it's not as far along the journey as queer, for example.
Right.
So anyway, what I was saying is I was just basically saying, like, I see it in the positive sense in terms of like reclaiming the word, kind of using it as a powerful sense to kind of mean brotherhood or whatever.
Right.
On the flip side, I see pretty clearly the negative side of things, just because, that is a word which, like I say, is the most terrible words or one of the most terrible words in the English dictionary, and it's obviously been used to degrade our people for hundreds of years. Yeah. So obviously what comes with that is a lot of baggage and a lot of kind of history with that, I suppose. Like, even if you hear it, like, you still feel like, I don't know about you, but even if I hear it, like, I feel like, even if it's by somebody who is black as well, like, if they kind of catch me off guard with it, I'm still like, your initial reaction as a black person be like, oh, that's a bit funny, but then, so I kind of see it from a negative sense, and the kind of the best way I try to frame it is like, when I'm with my parents, for example, and we're listening to hip hop and they hear the word, they have a completely different reaction to what I do. Like I say, it might be a generational thing. Yeah. But I do think at its core, and people will debate the way it's spelt and things like that, and it changes the meaning, which we might get onto. In fact, I got a funny thing that I just remembered from YouTube that we can talk about. Yeah. So people might say the spelling of the word changes things, but at the end of the day, I think at its core, like, it's still like a word to demean our people 100%. That has been used for 100 years.
100%. This is where I kind of jump out the window with my thoughts, right?
Do I need to brace for impact?
No, it's not even brace for impact. But, we were kind of talking about this before we got on, but I feel the power of anything is through the meaning that we associate with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the minute, as a collective, which is damn near impossible to, but the minute black people as a collective can let go of the hurt and pain associated with being black and being demeaned. The minute someone can say nigger to you and it does not make you feel less than, right, is the minute that word no longer has any power whatsoever.
Do you think we'll ever get to a time like that?
I would love that to be the case. Because then it's just like, well, now you have nothing over me. Yeah. Because I feel like that's I've got this in my back pocket for you, right? Like, if I'm a white person and I feel any way insecure about myself, any way like I don't have the upper hand, I've got something in my back pocket that I can always bring out to make you feel bad about yourself. But what if I don't have that anymore? Yeah. What if that word no longer has that same level of hurt?
Yeah. Or whatever, it's tough, man, because you're talking, maybe not so much with our generation, but I know for like my dad's generation, for example, like, he would get called that. Yeah. So like, for some people, like, that word will never represent anything other than pain and, just something which is just demean them, I suppose, beyond a human being. So I think maybe in time, like, because we're the generation who've kind of grown up with it in hip hop and it's been a bit more kind of freely used in different guys, maybe in time, like, we would be at the forefront of the ones who, eventually it doesn't have an impact on us in the same way that it might have done on my dad and his kind of forefathers and stuff like that.
Yeah, like, I just feel like Gandhi, I think, said something about you only feel you can only feel, basically, I'm paraphrasing and I'm butchering his point here, but you can only feel disrespected, right, if you respect the opinion of the person that's disrespected.
Sure, no, I hear
Do you know
that.
what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I hear that.
So it's kind of like, you can only feel like you are less than if you think the person calling you a nigger has something over you. Yeah, I hear. And the truth is they don't, right? No individual, and it's not kind of like, a black and white thing. It's just no individual has anything over anybody else, period, right? It's kind of like a rich person, mocking a poor person, for example. And then that poor person feels even worse about their lives, right? And that's because the poor person is assuming, because the person has wealth, that therefore means something about them. Sure. Right? And it doesn't, right? Because the poor person could literally fight back and say, you know what, you don't spend time with your family, nobody loves you, everybody around you is only there for your money, whatever the case may be. And that's going to make that rich person think twice and just be like, oh, what if that's true? Right? We all have something that we can hurl back at someone. In other words, nobody's life is like super perfect, including black people's lives, right? Including white people's lives. So for me, it's just like, I just feel like until we can until we can just remove that sense of like, I think black people, this is again jumping out the window here, I think collectively black people have like low self-esteem.
I mean,
collectively.
maybe.
I feel like collectively we still feel our place is lower than our white counterparts.
Maybe, maybe to a degree, but it's kind of hard, I suppose, not to feel that way when, you know, from the day you're born, everything is kind of geared against you, and you're constantly being told you're not going to amount to stuff, or you're not going to get to a position as good as like the white man next to you or the white woman next to you. So in some sense, you know, if that is true, like I'm kind of not surprised by it, I guess. But at the same time, and again, maybe this is me being idealistic, but I feel like the tide is turning, or it's starting, or at least it's starting to turn in that sense. And I think the reason why I kind of say that is I think back to, it's just like a really small point, but I think back, I went to the BLM marches in London a couple of years ago, and it felt like, how can I describe it? It just felt like people were starting to kind of believe in themselves and kind of believe that they had a voice, and collectively together, there were like thousands of people that, like tens of thousands of people that, like, it genuinely felt like we can make a difference, and we're starting to feel better about ourselves, and we're starting to feel like our voice is being heard and things like that. So I think our generation especially has got a key role in ensuring that continues, and kind of building ourselves out of this space where, to your point, we don't feel as low about ourselves as perhaps we should. So
I love that so much, because it's brought up so many things, and this is why I love these type of conversations, because you start with one thing and then you just kind of unpack more. So one of the things that people say is like the state of your room is a reflection of the state of your mind, right? So it's like if you've got a messy place, then it's like your mind is kind of messy, right? And we're talking about the N-word and how, you know, that demeans us and all this stuff, and we're kind of saying that, okay, the tide is turning. Do you know when I will feel like the tide is turning? To your point, actually, to validate your point, even with what I'm about to say, I'll mention something that kind of validates your point. But when I'll truly feel like the tide is turning is when our nations, right? Because the main thing that people always say is, oh, go back to your own country, right? Cool, no worries. If our nations were infrastructured, right, in the ways that, let's say, Western civilization has gotten its nations to, I don't see why anyone would be in this European continent when it can be either Africa or the Caribbean islands.
You just got all Marcus Garvey on
No, but bro, I don't see why. Like, better weather, better food, better climate. Do you know what I mean? All of those different things. So if you've got the infrastructure right, where like roads are similar to these roads, right? And my thing is not like, oh, we want houses in the same way over here. Different climates, you shouldn't build homes in the same way. I'm just saying they should look to a certain standard that we're used to. And I feel like the state of our nations, in the sense of like they're still now politically called developing countries rather than third world countries. They're still considered developing countries and all this stuff. The fact that that's happening, and it's not through solely their own fault, right? There's things like that World Bank and IMF that create all of these like sanctions and what do you call it, like loan agreements that make it damn near impossible for these countries to ever truly flourish. You know? But until that happens, it's kind of like our state of mind will always reflect the state of our countries and our nations, because most nations that are like ethnically minority members of the global majority are impoverished.
Yeah, sure.
Do you know what I mean? The thing that validates your point, though, is especially in the African Americans, like I see a lot of celebrities going to Ghana in particular. They're all going back, a lot of them, and they're all connecting to places that they felt disconnected from for a very, very long time. And that is heartening, right? To see kind of, especially me being African, you being Caribbean. African was never a cool thing to be growing up. Do you know what I mean? So especially now seeing like African culture being taken seriously and being seen as something cool, etc. It's just like, okay, the tide is shifting.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't reach the remit of like, because bro, it's okay to be popular. Do you know what I mean? The popular guys never, like, in the long run, the people that were popular at school were never the ones that actually succeeded in life. And I feel like black people are the popular people in the world, right? We're the popular kids. Do you know what I mean?
We're like the most copied.
Do you know what I mean? Everybody buys into our culture and all this stuff, but that's not where the success is at.
I hear you. Yeah, do you know what I mean? I know what you mean. It's like you need it's all well and good being a popular person, but unless you've got the infrastructure to actually bring people back and bring talent and bring like finance and wealth and economy, then it kind of doesn't mean that much, to be fair. But I
do you know what I mean? We need to be the nerds. We need to be the whoever, right? We need more than just, their culture is so cool.
Yeah,
that's the thing that they used to describe us all the time, right? You guys are so cool. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. What's Obama? The coolest president America's ever had.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of them lazy stereotypes I think that we get, but it is what it is, really.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up again on just the negative use on the word again.
Yeah.
So another reason why, aside from the fact that it's just like a really terrible word that's steeped in a lot of atrocities in history, the other reason why I'm less keen on it, or I can be less keen on it, is because I feel like regular usage of it like almost gives license to non-black people to use it. And I'm sure we'll probably touch on it in a second with hip hop, and we're both hip hop fans, and it's all part of the songs and whatnot. And part of the episode that we did, I don't even remember, but we were saying like, as a non-black person, like their rationale behind using it would be like, but it's in the song. So I do think that it does, just frequent use of it does open it up to other people.
Yeah.
But in saying that, in fact, actually, just quickly on that, what do you think about that before we go?
Like I can see the logic in that, but I always feel like it's the same logic used with like violent movies. Do you know what I mean? Like, the kids, like it's because they're watching these videos. That's why they went and shot the school. Like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that kid was gonna. I'm trying to say that without being too insensitive to the fact that school shootings do happen, right? And people lose their lives and they lose their children. But it's just to say, like, to simplify it to like, if they didn't listen to that type of music, right, whether it's like heavy metal or whatever, and then they didn't watch Quentin Tarantino films. I don't know why I'm pinpointing Tarantino in particular.
No, but I think that's a good point, because he has been pulled up quite a few times for his use of the
word nigga, right? Yeah. So I mean, I watched Django, and I'm just like, don't get me wrong, like it's almost like there is a level of like, what's the word? I don't know if it's like fantasy in the sense of like revenge fantasy almost. Like Django kills a bunch of white slave owners and all this stuff, right? I get that, but he still had to write the amount of niggas that he wrote on that script. He wrote a lot of, and this is the ER version, right? I know we're going to get to the whole spelling of it, but yeah, he wrote a bunch of those, right? DiCaprio, hats off to him, he played that role so well. Hated him with a passion in that film. Do you know what I mean? But so my thoughts is this. I can watch a film or listen to a song that I don't know, like demeans, let's say, members of the LGBTQ.
Yeah.
That's not going to desensitize me to treat a person from the LGBTQ any less because I saw it in a movie or I heard it in a song. So I feel like whoever says, but it's in, you guys say it all the time, or it's part of the song. You are a human being. Do you know what I mean? You know what's right or wrong. Do not use a flimsy excuse like, you guys, it's part of the song. It's written by a black person.
Yeah, sure.
Predominantly speaking to their black culture and their black experience. That's how they're saying it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if somebody made a song around, I don't know, like worshiping the devil or whatever, or something. I don't know. That's probably a terrible. Let's say somebody made a song about raping someone, right? Like you're not gonna gleefully, like, repeat those things as if it's a cool thing. Do you know what I mean? Sure. There'll be something about you that just feels like that's that person's prerogative, or that's that person's like decision to do that. But there's nothing that I find cool in it.
Yeah,
in order for me to repeat again. This kind of how I see it.
No, I hear that, and I suppose actually to drop a mini bombshell, I think there is a time when non-black people can say the word nigger. Nice, okay. And the one time that they can say it is when hell freezes over, because they shouldn't be saying that word at all. Psych. I completely agree with you. Like, regardless whether it's in a film or a song, to your point, it's written by, well, in the case of a film, it's not written by a black person, but you know, when it comes to hip hop anyway, it's written primarily by black people. It's speaking about the black experience.
Niggas. Sorry.
New line, FUBU rebranded. But I just think because it always has that connotation of you know, pejorative. Like I think any race who isn't black should just be sensitive to that.
100%.
And like I say, you're welcome to say it, but you would expect to
get beaten.
Also
you
expect to get beaten up. Yeah, expect to get beaten up. And
yeah.
the thing that I wanted to bring up earlier, actually, the YouTube clip that I mentioned is it's one of my favorite clips on YouTube. Actually,
oh really?
There's a white teacher, right, and he's in a school in America, and basically he gets pulled up for, it's actually quite funny, to be fair. He gets pulled up for saying the N-word,
right?
But his rationale behind doing it is because he heard one of his black students use it, and the thing is so cringe, but it's also really fun at the time because he tries to explain that he didn't use the version that ends in ER, he used the version that ended in A, or as he puts it, in AH. And he does it, and he digs himself in a hole, and he's like, no, I didn't say nigger, I said nigga, like that. So that, to me, is like the perfect example of like someone who is completely read the room wrong in terms of, you know, this is a word, regardless of how it's spelt and what the connotations behind it are, is not really something you should be saying, unless you want to get yourself on the news like he did. So, like I say, it's a word which people can say who aren't black, but there are going to be there are going to be repercussions behind it. So.
What happened to him? Did he get?
Do you know? I don't actually know. I will show you the clip because it's actually funny because it's just funny because he's so passionate about it, and he's not wrong, to be fair, in terms of, you know, it is a bit of a double standard where one race can use it versus the other, but at the same time,
listen,
just allow it, man.
The amount of double standards, right?
So
that I wish we could trade for the rights for white people to use the word nigger. Sure, give us your double standards that you guys have, i.e., you guys can literally yell back at the police, right, and say, "I know my rights," and they won't do a thing to you, right? That's a double standard. Yeah. Because there's no way black people feel that they even had the capacity a lot of the time to fight back in that way, right? The double standard where two people can go for a loan, one's going to get it, one isn't, for no other metrics than like what, you know, qualifies them visually. That's a double standard. Hey, we'd love to have that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point as well, because I feel like there's so many more, to your point, like there's so many more pertinent double standards that we face, which impact us immensely and have done for so long, that, you know, to not even allow us, to be honest, but like to not say the word is like a minor in the grand scheme of things. So
big time, like
basically that translation, what Serge is saying is like, just don't say it, because
100%, especially in that context, right? I'm looking forward to watching it, but it's like, you're the teacher. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, you are the adult in the room. Like, you cannot say that you were influenced by a student to say something that you know has a history of so much hurt and pain behind it. Do you know what I mean? You're the teacher in the room. Do you know what I mean? Even if you were the cool teacher in the room, that I think for me, what makes a cool teacher is they understand the context of everything. Do you know what I mean? Like they know where, it's like a cool teacher knows when to be serious, as in like when to be like, no guys, okay, we're going to do some work now, then we can play around. Okay, we're playing around right now, I'm not going to be serious, whatever, right? They know how to balance it out, right? A teacher that's pandering, do you know what I mean? That's when you get yourself in trouble. Yeah, because you think, oh, I could be one of them or whatever, I could be one of the students. And same thing with like even parenting, right? If you're pandering, that's when your kids run amok. So again, it becomes an interesting conversation around like, can a white parent of a black child, because let's face it, if you are mixed, you're black, right? You're considered black. Can a white parent of a black child use the term? And again, it's still no. You can't use that term. Facts. Do you know what I mean? You can't use that term. So even if they say, my son uses it and my son's black, but you're not. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Facts, man. Right? You're not. And then here's the thing. Even if like, for whatever reason, the context was fine and therefore you were allowed to use it, my question to you would be this: would you allow again, I hate to stereotype, but would you allow like a redneck to use it on your son?
Yeah, sure.
If you say, no, I would never, then right there, that sense of offense around your son being called out by someone that you know is a racist, that feeling is what black people carry over their heads all the time.
Yeah, sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah.
So you can't use it.
Yeah,
you
fair.
know what I mean?
What about I feel like I know the answer to this, but I feel like I'll just ask you anyway.
Yeah.
So you know, at the start you were saying like you've got a friend who's not black, but you call him.
Yeah,
nigga.
yeah.
What if he called you nigga? What then? What do you do, Serge?
You know what?
And also, just to add to that as well, does it matter what race they are? Say if he did call you nigga, like, does it matter what race they are? So the reason why I brought that up is because, you know, in America, you have Latinos who use the word nigga.
Yeah, a lot, Fat Joe.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Which still kind of bugs me out, actually, because... And maybe it speaks to the point that we were talking about earlier in terms of maybe it's just like a state of mind and an experience 100%. As opposed to, you know, what your colour is. Yeah. So, yeah, does it matter, you know, if someone who's not black calls you nigger, does it matter like what race they are, or is it just completely independent of that for you?
I think black...
And does your friend
no,
what would happen if your friend called you that? You get beat.
No, he wouldn't.
You get rushed.
Nah, I think black people like publicly will always say it's never cool for a white person to say it, right? For a non-black to say it, let's say. But I think the truth of the matter is, especially when it comes to, it's almost like I go on to random tangents, but it's almost like grooming, right? So what happens, and what I'd literally done this as a work thing. They were talking about, and this is gonna seem like such a random thing, but
I'm here for it.
I went to a work thing where they were talking about, what if your colleague, if you noticed that your colleague was watching indecent images of children on their laptop, what would you do, right? And I was like, well, you have to report them and stuff. And I was like, I said to them, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I would probably talk to them first and say, you need to get that off your laptop, whatever, blah, 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 first. And then the person said to me, thank you so much for saying that, because most people don't admit that that's... Because I'm like, if that's my boy, I would be disturbed by it, but I'll be like, yo, what are you doing? Like, get that off your thing. And then the man that was facilitating the workshop said, that's grooming. They've actually groomed you into giving them a pass. Right. Do you get what I'm saying? So like the consequences don't apply to them, because you want them to do the right thing before they feel the consequences.
Right, I see.
That's grooming.
Got you.
So that's what I meant
I didn't know that was...
Yeah, okay. That's grooming, right? Because it's like somebody is so in... Because if you look at the gangs, that's how they do the grooming, right?
Sure, yeah.
To the point where it's like someone will take a sentence for their boys because they've been groomed so much to think that that's okay.
I hear you. I hear it when it's in a gang context.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So, to bring it back now, why I went into that tangent, by the time someone close to me who's non-black is saying the word nigger, I've probably been groomed, right, by them, not intentionally. But they've been groomed by me to accept being called a nigger by me. Bearing in mind, they're not nigger either, right? But they've accepted it, right? So we've groomed each other into speaking to each other in that way. Do you know what I mean? So the truth of the matter is, privately, there's probably a bunch of people, and there's a film called Blind Spotting, that deals with this. It's like based in Oakland, California, and a white guy says nigger all the time. He's got a black girlfriend, he's got black children, and his best friend is black too, and like his friend just trips out and just like, you're not a nigger. Do you know what I mean? Like, stop saying that, you don't understand what it's like to be me and this and other. And I think they have a pullover like where a cop pulls them over, and there's like a real sense of dread that his friend is gonna get killed, and he realizes that he didn't have that sense of dread. And that's when he was like, and then even when he goes back to his girl, and his girl's like, hey, nigga, this and he's crying, just like, can you just not call me a nigga? Do you know what I mean, right? But the whole point of it is, every black person would publicly say, out of loyalty to their own race, will publicly say, no, there's no circumstances. But the truth is, we all get groomed, and we also groom others, right? To allow things to happen for us or to us that we typically in normal circumstances wouldn't. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, damn. Yeah. That's a point, man. That's probably a good way to finish it, but yeah. I mean, moral of the story with this is, if you're not black, don't say nigga. Don't say, because you'll get beats and it's not right. Yeah. So yeah, just don't do it. And my moral as well is, if you want to say it, you should question yourself as to why. Shouldn't even, if you're not black, it shouldn't even
come on your radar
that you want to. Like, oh, this is a word that I want to say.
Thanks for watching 30 Years and Running. Please subscribe, comment, and share. See you next week. Peace.